Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results. Hi, I'm Perry Holly, a Maxwell Leadership Facilitator and Coach.
And I'm Chris Cody, Executive Vice President with Maxwell Leadership. Welcome and thank you for joining. Love the fact that you guys continue to listen. Perry and I, man, we're so grateful.
Yes.
The feedback that we get about how you're using this. So, man, use this personal growth, team growth, whatever that might look like. If the learner guide would add value to you and your team as you dissect some of this content, I want to encourage you to go to maxwellleadership.com/podcast. There you can download that. You can also click on this podcast and submit a question or learn more about what we do with organizations. Now, we're going to talk about this title. And before I do, I want to put a disclaimer out there. This is not you, okay? This is not you. Immediately, you're going to think about maybe somebody on your team that this could be, okay? And here's Perry's title. How likable are you? And I'm like, what does that mean? How likable are you? Like, I told him right before we started, I was like, man, this is mean. We're getting after some people, but how likable are you? And I think it's a really good question. It's interesting. You know, John says that, man, people are not going to make the journey with you if they don't like you. Mm-hmm. Think about this, right? Like, you don't go on vacation with people that you don't like, right? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to take that journey with you. And so people are not going to go along with you unless they can get along with you. And so it comes down to, you know, how, and we're going to talk about this from an engaging standpoint, how engaging, how likable are you as an individual?
Well, it came up from a client that said, could you help some of our front customer-facing customer service reps are just making customers angry. I go, well, what's that? They're just not likable. I go, well, why aren't they likable? Did you hire likable people? But
I'm thinking right now about 24 different organizations that example could potentially be.
But let me ask you, how important is likability to leadership?
Now listen, I'm a big fan of it, but let me be very clear, okay? You need to be likable, but I also want to make sure people understand that you also have to lead, right? And at times, it may come across, there's a difference, I think, between wanting to be liked, okay, and leading, and being likable and leading. So that could even be a podcast for you down the road. Those are two different examples. And what we're talking about today is, man, we got to lead, but how do you become, or how do you come across? What are the attributes to be likable? I think it's extremely important.
We could actually build it into this podcast because I'm thinking, you know, my personality is I'm a bit of a pleaser. I want to be liked. I want you to like me. But could that get in the way of my leadership? Are you driven that way?
Yes.
Yes,
I know
we're similar in a lot of ways. But we're not the same temperament, but we are very close in some ways. But when you think about the most likable people you know, not trying to be people pleasers or, please like me, please. But I mean, just likable general that you see in leadership. Are there characteristics that come to mind?
And no matter what your personality is, okay, so this is, you could look at it and say, well, I'm often attracted to those that are wired just like me. There may be some of that. But I think when I thought about this, I thought, okay, well, no matter what your personality is, if you have positivity, I love I cannot stand negativity, right? Like realistic, I got it, but not negativity. Humility, integrity, approachable. I love that word. And then this is something that's not talked about enough in leadership, which is consistency. Like, what are those things? Like, man, I love, the last thing that when I think about somebody, if I think they're not likable, it's just, I don't know what I'm going to get that day, right? And so those are some things that come to my mind. And so to understand this, and these are just some of Chris's thoughts, characteristics that Perry asked me, but part of where we're going is, again, we're going to go back to self-aware. Like, how self-aware are you? Because I think it's easy for us to overestimate how likable we are. That's why I started off the podcast today by saying, this is not you. Because I promise you that most all of us go, oh no, I'm likable, right? And to your point in previous, you'd be like, well, you might want to mind your face if if you think you're likable. And so what we're really talking about when all this comes down to it for us is emotional intelligence. How aware are we of our emotional intelligence?
One thing I'm noticing why this came up, it's not that you're not a likable person, it's what your focus is. 2024 is proving to be a challenging year for a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
It's not a bad year. But what happened easily in the last 2 or 3 years is not happening easily now.
Yeah.
And so we're having to work harder and maybe get less for it. And so people are feeling it, and the leadership can be feeling it. So even though you are by nature a likable person, you're so focused
100%
on the challenge of getting the business, of getting the results, that you can forget some of these things that make work enjoyable for your team. And again, we're going back to developing your influence, is that I feel like I'm just following you because I have to, because we got to get the job done, and you're driving me hard, and you're not connecting with me, and those types of things. There's going to be some simple things here that just remind you to, can I just put this into my daily actions to say I can still be a likable person in tough times, 100%. in challenging times. So,
and that reminds me that as we talk about in the 5 levels, even as you go into go mode, production mode, level 3, right? You never leave level 2 behind.
Right.
So you're going to be in go mode, but man, don't not be likable through those tough times. And by the way, if you figure out how to really kind of master this, and it becomes, a pure motive of yours, what ends up happening is in tough times, people understand and give you a little more grace than, and I have not always done this perfect, because I was thinking through some examples as you were talking. And when the plates are spinning and whatnot, like I may come across, we did a podcast a couple weeks ago about, it's not my intent not to be likable, but the impact I had was that I was not likable. And so I need to be aware of that.
Well, I've got a couple of things. They're going to sound simplistic, but I want you to tell me your thoughts on that. We'll just do a little back and forth, but I did a little digging about what makes people come across as likable. And one of them, probably one of the top ones, was it said they ask more questions. Yeah. What does asking more questions have to do?
So from my perspective, here's a couple of things that I think about when you say that. Why are they likable? Number one, they're inviting my ideas, right? They're asking questions behind that. I think they're modeling safeness in asking questions, no matter what they are. What does that look like? They're modeling for me. They don't, this is what I wrote down. They don't act like they know everything. Boy, I'll tell you what, like that bothers me. That becomes unlikable when there's always an answer.
Yeah, you're the smartest one in the room.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So those are a couple of things.
And when you're asking, you're not telling, which is again a good thing. You're asking for people's input. You're hearing their voice. And we talk a lot about curiosity. Just having a spirit of curiosity to say, I'm curious about you, about your job, about how we're doing, about how we could do it better. There's all kinds of ways that go there. Another one that came pretty top to the list. It must be a new generational thing, but put away your phone. What do you think? Why does that make you more likable?
Yeah, and tell the audience what you put here in your notes right behind that.
Oh yeah, and well, I'm noticing
100%. That's why I want you to say it.
Mind your wrist.
Yes,
because I'm noticing people are getting smarter about. Hey, I probably shouldn't look at my phone while I'm talking to you. Yeah. But then the minute my wrist buzzes, I go like this.
100. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I was in this phase where my family wanted to get me a watch, right? So I'm like, no, I don't want it. No, you need it. You don't ever answer our calls, right? You don't ever answer our texts, which I'm bad about that. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that, because I purposely at times don't answer my phone or don't look at my phone. Not great at it. Could definitely get better at it. But if I'm at the table and we're having lunch or a meeting and it's on my wrist right here, that's why I wanted you to talk about it, because it happens every day. Yeah. People, as soon as it goes off, what do? They at least are looking at it and they're checking it. It may not be important to them, but they want to know what it did. And so what is that communicating to me when you start talking about this likability? Is that they don't necessarily respect my time. They're not present. They're thinking about something. And so I don't think that's likable. I don't want to be around somebody like that. So I'm glad you talked about that, because that is becoming more and more of an issue for me personally.
It's a discipline and you have to practice it. And I'm in front of a lot of audiences and my watch will vibrate while I'm speaking. And I count it as I'm not going to look.
You have to not. Yeah,
but I've also noticed that my phone has some settings where I can turn that off while I'm with people, and I can turn it on when I'm privately in my office working on email, whatever, to do that. There's some settings that you can set that only certain people can get through. So if we have a significant other that needs to have access to you 24/7, I know that only that person can get through, or only my kids can get through, but all the rest of my address book is being blocked until I turn it back off to do that.
Hey, podcast listeners. Many of you listening right now would probably love the autonomy that comes with owning your own business or becoming a coach that helps other businesses succeed. Well, we have a phenomenal strategy where you are 100% in control of your own business, earning income on your own terms, and have access to the people, tools, and resources you need to build a thriving leadership development business. When you become a Maxwell Leadership Certified Team member, you join a global community of entrepreneurs led by our expert team of mentors and faculty, including John C. Maxwell. You'll also get one of the top leadership certifications in the world next to your name, giving you the boost you need to get started. Visit us online at maxwellleadership.com/join the team to find out more.
Another one that came near the top of the list, this one's it might sound a little odd to some people, but if you know where it came from, you'll know why it's important. It says, greeting people and using their name, saying their name. Chris, saying your name, Chris. And why is that making it more likable?
It is the thing that we enjoy hearing the most. And I know research in the past has talked about how it has such a positive effect when we use the first name and you're greeting people by name. It shows that you value their identity, which will make you even more likable. There's a personal connection there. And so as I was thinking through this, I was getting even more and more frustrated because I am horrible with names, And so it's extremely important, though, to be likable, is that when you do greet people by name, it just has that positive effect. And positivity to me is tied to likability.
Yeah, right. And Dale Carnegie said it, the most important sound that anybody to them is their name. And so, if you're walking in a crowded place and somebody said, Chris, you would look around. Yeah. You don't even know where it came, but you're attuned to your name. So when you use people's names a couple of times, 3 times in a conversation, it makes it more personable, makes me feel important, makes me remember you because, boy, you really could do that. Yeah, you know my name to do that. All right, your favorite one. I said, what makes people more likable is smile. Yeah. And what's your favorite? Mind your face.
That's exactly right. Right. Like what I love about this and likability is this smiling transcends all types of barriers and cultures. We couldn't even speak the same language, but if we smiled, it would make it more likable. It would attract me to that individual. It promotes positive emotions. And I often think about you when you share the story, and I do it now too, which is when we walk through the airport, and Perry and I are in a lot of airports, Perry has taught me to look at people and smile almost uncomfortably until they smile back, right? Because you're like, I am going to get that. Now, it doesn't always work,
it doesn't.
Right? Like we live in Atlanta, the busiest airport. It doesn't always work in Atlanta. It may work in some other cities, but it's just it's something that's contagious, right? And it just pulls you in. It has a positive effect when you smile at other people.
I got an elevator recently, and I was the last
that's
one
the
in.
Worst. But why does everybody just not talk in an elevator?
Yeah, I just got again. I was the last one in. It was kind of crowded. I gave a big smile. So, how was everyone? And I turned around like we're supposed to turn around and face the door, and I heard somebody kind of snicker, and somebody else kind of smiled, and like it made a smile. And I thought, well, do I seem more likable? Am I more memorable? Of course, I love that. But a lot of people said, "Are you happy?" Yeah, I'm happy. Well, tell your face.
Yeah,
you don't look
exactly right.
happy to do that.
I think elevators this is not proper grammar, are probably the least happy place in the world. Like everybody gets on and just doesn't even look or talk to each other.
Don't do that. Another one to make yourself more likable is not seeking attention of others, not trying to be the main source of attention or drawing attention to yourself. What are your thoughts about that?
This is back to one of my early comments when you asked me about the characteristics. For me, it just shows a lot of humility, and it shows that you're engaged in what I have to say, like you're actively listening, and that you're open to learn. And that's just something that appeals to me.
One thing that John talks about, another one is called follow the platinum rule. You want to tell them what that is?
Yeah, the platinum rule for us is to make sure that you are leading people the way they need to be led. And so you need to make sure that you know that. And one of the ways to do that is, I believe, is to make sure that you are others oriented and that you want to make sure you do that. Hey, one other thing before we move on, one of the ones you had in here, I want to talk about for just a minute. you talked about likable is making sure, and this is tied to the platinum rule, but you specifically in my notes put, know who to touch and who not to touch. Now, any of you that are in HR, which we deal with a lot of our HR team, this is not where we're going. Yeah. But for example, pat on the shoulder, a pat on the back, hey, great job, hey, a fist pump, whatever, my handshake or whatever. And so this is something that is so, we don't even think about it, but it's something you really need to be aware of. And I tend to be a little bit more like, especially around here, Mark Cole, I've been around this, it's just like, hey, let's give everybody a hug. Right? I mean, we are, and I'll never forget my now executive partner, Angie. Like, I remember she came in for an interview and I'm like, so excited about everybody that's coming in. I'm like, and I just remember this awkward embrace. And what I didn't understand in the moment is my fault. I should have known this, is that I didn't appear very likable to her because that is a no-no. Right. Like, and we laugh about it today, even now. Like, I'm like, go to fist bumper and I'm like, we good? But you got to know that. And to your point with, if you know how other people need to be led and connected with, it'll make you become more likable.
Yeah, don't be touching people that don't want to be touched, and don't be touching inappropriately. But there is a lot, like you said, a hand on the shoulder, and around here it is a hugging environment. There is the fist bump, the handshake. But you need to be really attentive to what other people like or don't like on that. Another one about balancing passion and fun. I thought that was interesting on the list, but ideas on that one? What was that?
Well,
about being likable had to do with that?
I think when we think about fun, no matter what your fun is, whatever fun is for you, whoever you're having fun with and whatever that might look like, it becomes that likable environment, right? And so it becomes contagious. So if they're have a lot of passion and they're having fun, like, it is going to it's contagious. It's going to draw you into that, whether you like it or not. And so I'm glad it's on the list. I think it's true. You're gravitated towards that.
The last one I put is one of my favorites, one of the biggest learnings of my life. I just wish I'd have known it so much earlier, but Dale Carnegie said that you can make more friends, be more likable in 2 weeks by being interested in others than you can in 2 years of trying to get them interested in you. And I just shortened that to me to remind me when I'm with people, be interested, Perry, not interesting.
Yeah.
And it's so tempting to want to be the interesting one in the room. I want you talking about me. It's my favorite subject. Why don't we talk about me? And that's not your favorite. Your favorite subject's you. Yeah. And so for me as a leader, trying to be likable and to be engaging and have influence, I think this is a beautiful one to say, be interested in others. That's and good. Stop trying to get them interested in you.
Yeah.
Does that
That's good.
resonate with you?
Yeah, 100%. I think the less you talk, not asking questions, the less you talk about yourself, the more likable you are to the other individuals. To keep that in mind when you're having your next conversation.
And just as we start to wrap up, I threw in a couple things just to be careful to avoid. So these are things that can kill it. We can do it quickly. But number one on the list was humble bragging. What does that even mean?
Well, I mean, it wasn't about me, but let me tell you what we accomplished, right? Like, I have found myself in the past saying, now this is not a narcissistic statement. And then I say, and I'm like, if I got to say that, then it is this humble bragging, right? Like, if you're going to brag, just brag, right? Versus trying to deflect and then brag.
Yeah, the team did really well after I got them through the door by knowing that people at the top. I mean, what?
Right.
What? Yeah, just give the credit to the team. Name dropping.
Oh my God.
Name dropping.
Yeah, this becomes laughter for us at times with people who are like, oh, did you just drop John Maxwell's name or whatever, right? Like, whoever it might be. And it just, for me, it discredits sometimes people, especially if it's not tied to the story and has no relevance. It's not likable for me.
Yeah, gossiping is probably obviously don't be talking about things you shouldn't be talking about. But having a closed mind, not being open to others' thoughts, is that what you're good with that?
I feel like that's like a brick wall. And I mean, you just run into it. That's not fun. It's not likable. And it's hard for me to connect with people that have a closed mind.
This other one says sharing too much too early, about sharing, things about you, private thing, being open too early. Is that the way you read that?
Yeah. And you also have on here, and I'll wrap us up, you have sharing too much on social media. I think both of these could be hand in hand. I just, for me, something goes off, a red flag goes off, and all of a sudden I know you for 30 minutes and I understand and have learned a lot of personal stuff that I probably don't need to know. Right. Maybe even if we were friends 30 years, right? And we all know some people that are like this, and they're just so open. and that's how they communicate. But it's just, for me, it doesn't become that. And also at times I think that with the social media thing, I know different generations view it differently, but for me, there's so much that's shared out there that is not necessarily really how things are being portrayed.
Right.
And it continues to be the same trend versus what really life looks like. And so for me, I guess it goes back to the authenticity, is where when you put these down, it's interesting. And then we start talking through them. The word that comes to mind to me, that as I kind of close and wrap up with some thoughts, is authenticity is a trust accelerator. And so I'm attracted, and I like people that are truly authentic and what that looks like. And it's a true statement though, because you know this, you've been in sales on and off for a long time. We do business with those that we like. Mm-hmm. Someone might have a better product, maybe even a little better price, whatever. But if they're not likable and I don't like them, I'm not doing that.
Right.
And it is the same in that situation as it is increasing your influence and leading your team and being with your family and every part of your life. And so I think there's enough negativity in this world and things that we deal with are hard things we deal with, that I think we need more people to think about, how do I become likable today to everybody that I encounter? It may be starting as simple as Perry does, walking through the airport smiling, trying to get other people to smile. But when you think about it, there are ways for you to get up every day and think about, how can I add value and be likable to people that I'm going to connect with?
I was going through Home Depot the other day, and I just asked a guy was doing something, trying to lift something, and I offered to help him. And then I asked him a question, and I got out to the car, and after we got our stuff, and my granddaughter says, how'd you know that guy? I go, I didn't know that guy. Well, why were you talking to him? Well, because he's a human. I mean, why, just being friendly, just being likable, just being a friend even if I don't know them, to do that. So yeah, we can do a lot more to drive our relationships. Great stuff. And just a reminder, if you'd like to get the learner guide for this, if you'd like to learn more about our offerings, learn about our other podcast family of offerings we have there, you can do all that at maxwellleadership.com/podcast. You can leave us a comment or a question. I hope you know that we love hearing from you, and we're very grateful that you'd spend this time with us. That's all today from the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast.
Are you ready to elevate your leadership to new heights? Join the movement towards High Road Leadership with John C. Maxwell's latest book. In High Road Leadership, John explores the power of valuing all people, doing the right things for the right reasons, and placing others above personal agendas. Learn how to inspire positive change and bring people together in a world that divides. Order now and receive exclusive bonuses, including a keynote on High Road Leadership by John Maxwell himself and a sneak peek into 3 impactful chapters. Take the first step towards becoming a High Road leader. Visit highroadleadershipbook.com to order your copy today.